Okay, so here we're looking at layer sequencer. All right, this is insanely powerful. Allows you to do basic editing in After Effects. Now, lots of people say you don't do editing in After Effects, you do it in Premiere Pro. That's true, but there are times when you need to tweak or fine tune your edits, and sometimes you would edit even your animatics, your voice, and stuff in Premiere Pro, but when you come into After Effects, there'll be times where you need to tweak it and fine tune your stuff. And there are also those who do very high impact, very multi layered sequences with lots of really high quality text effects and animations. Um, Instead of jumping back and forth, dealing with dynamic link, which sometimes can be a bit finicky if you've used it sufficiently. So sometimes, if you want to be productive, stay productive with those kinds of high impact sequences, you would still do your not sequencing per se, but editing here, right? So the way this works is you select the layers. Lock layers will not be affected. So if you're going to have layers here which you will not sequence, you don't do it. So this essentially works like the sequencing in um, tool in After Effects, except that it's really user friendly. I'm going to set this to 25 or 26 seconds. Okay, and then you see, so you can set up down up or top down in terms of sequencing or based on your selection order. Okay, I'm going to leave it here. You can set gaps. If it's negative, this is based on frames, yeah. If it's negative, then your fade transition will be enabled. And you can create a marker also as a visual indicator. I'm going to set this to 0. Um, yeah, so auto update composition duration. Now, if I sequence this, the current timeline is 26 seconds. Obviously, just visually looking at this, it's going to be a lot longer than the timeline. So that's what this option does. All right. And you can set your sequence start time at the timeline start, default, CTI, or the first layer's endpoint. Right. You may have layers set up like this. Okay. But I'm going to set it to timeline start. And I'm going to create sequence. And what you'll notice is it'll be sequence based on my selection here. And also it's gonna auto update composition duration. All right, so it sequences everything from down up, and it's also lengthened the timeline. Now it's 55 seconds and 26 frames, and it's also set the work area quite nicely there. So it looks pretty neat, pretty nice. So you can check out, you can do your trims. Things are basic. I actually have a much more um, another script, not another script, this script, but it's a lot more, um, a lot more functionality in there. But I've not put it in just yet because I haven't finished testing. But as you can see, you can trim, and then you come back here, select the layers, and you click on fix gaps and overlays. You can also click on this. I think it will work, but I normally click here, so it closes all the gaps. Pretty cool, right? What's also cool is you can swap selected layers. So let's say I want this to be, I want to swap their positions here. So if you click here, they'll swap, but they won't close and there'll be overlaps. So I'm going to undo. If you want to swap and close gaps at the same time, you shift click here. So shift click is a unique key, right? And it does that. And come up here. And here it does. Hold down shift while clicking the swap button with exactly 2 layers selected will do this. Swap and then close gaps. Right? So I try to make this as user friendly as possible. Let's assume that's done. if you're going to send this out or nest this, what you can do or will want to do is create layer markers at layer endpoints, okay, and create composition markers, right, and do sequential so that in the nested composition you can see what's happening. So now when you nest, your composition markers will allow you to see where the edit points are. So back here, yeah, so you can add transition at the start, yeah, or at the end. And chances are, if you're not going to do much editing or any editing, then you would set your dissolves here or your fades. Um, but you can set it later also. Your duration, your start and end values for the opacity, which is what it uses. And you've got overlap methods, because to create an overlay, obviously you need an overlap. So at this point in time, there is no overlap. So you can decide to move the clips, all right, to create the overlap, lengthen clips, or do nothing. In this case, do nothing. Nothing's going to happen because there's no overlap, so you don't want this option. Okay, so let's do move clips in time. And this works even with selection order. All right. So selection order, you won't get a nice selection like this. It'll be a bit more jumbled, right? If I open up and press U, you can see the fade ins and fade out. So quite intelligently and accurately, it sets the overlap and also the opacity keyframes to create the fade ins and fade outs. There was another thing I wanted to show you. Oh, yeah, so at any point in time, you can switch, all right, between top down and you can hold shift and click here. Yeah? Hold shift and then click, because that will be like clicking on this guy, right, in this case. So everything's retained. But I think if you have overlaps creator, I don't think it will switch the overlaps, right? Let's see. See that? Now it's at the wrong spot, yeah? So just be mindful of that.